not reasonable. It doesn't satisfy. Why you are loading 10,000 lines code to handle only 2 classes? That's not great. This is legacy type. All technologies are like that earlier. Now technologies are building their modular libraries. That means application specific framework. What application needs, only that is loaded into memory. That is provided to application. This makes applications lightweight. This makes applications run on any device. That means designing application lightweight and run on any device that requires a modular .NET like technologies don't have modular libraries earlier. Now they are in the new versions, they are introducing the modular libraries, using modular libraries. So Angular also uses modular library. Before Angular, we were having AngularJS. AngularJS uses a legacy library, but now Angular uses a modular library. What is the modular library advantage? So lightweight applications, application lightweight, only application specific framework. Another important is faster. As I already told you, when compared to AngularJS, Angular is 10x faster, 10 times faster. Because of its modular lightweight nature, it has speed, it is more faster. Another important is now Angular supports features like differential loading. It supports features like differential loading. Differential loading will reduce the compatibility issues. In web development, one of the main problem web developers face is, in web designing, one of the main problem is browser compatibility. Even you started, I think, from HTML itself, you know that we have browser compatibility issues. That means in HTML, when you learn a tag, you know that every tag will not run similar in every browser. Every tag have limitations. Some browsers will recognize that, some browsers will not. I hope you learned that in HTML. Even HTML, you know that it have browser compatibility issues. JavaScript, HTML, web always faces the problem of browser compatibility. That means in one browser it is working, in another browser it is not working. So when you learn about HTML, for every tag they mention about compatibility. That means this tag, is it compatible to Chrome? Is it compatible to Edge? So web developers always face the problem in compatibility. And this is a good feature. What is the advantage of differential loading? The advantage of differential loading is nothing but, one key advantage is, for example, we have browsers also classified into 2 types actually. We have legacy browsers, we have modern browsers. Legacy browsers means they can understand ES up to 4. ES4 means JavaScript 4. And they can understand HTML 4. And modern browsers can understand ES5, higher versions. And they can understand HTML5. What happens is, you developed an application, and this application have a library. It have a library. And this library, if request is coming from legacy browsers, the library will be loaded according to these browsers. That means the library will be converted, which is suitable for those browsers. If the request is coming from modern browsers, the library will be converted into modern browsers. That means it can translate your JavaScript into you written in TypeScript. This TypeScript will be translated into ES5. You written in TypeScript, this TypeScript will be translated. This TypeScript will be translated into ES4. It will be translated into ES4. That means now Angular have a library which will automatically change according to the browser. If browser is lower version, library will be generated according to it. That's very good. That means you don't have a library which is served for all browsers. We have a library which changes according to browser. That's very good. This nature is called as differential loading. This is a very important interview question. Many times, even for experienced people, they ask, you know Angular, then what is differential loading? Because Angular comes with this new feature. Earlier, we don't have that. Means in early versions of Angular also, we don't have this. Angular came with this differential loading from the version Angular 8. From Angular 8 and higher versions, it started supporting differential loading. Earlier, we don't have that. So if you mention that I know Angular, then they will ask you certain questions. If you mention specially that I know Angular 13 or I know some version number, then they will ask what is new in it. Obviously, they will ask what is new in this. So that is the reason we have to know the new features, what are introduced into it and how they work. So versions difference last I will explain, because after learning the technology, we should know the version difference. We will discuss about that. So technically here, differential loading is nothing but differential loading. What is differential loading? Differential loading allows. So what is that? Differential loading allows the library to load according to browser. So it reduces the compatibility issues. That is what another important feature, that is differential loading. One more important feature of Angular is in the latest versions of Angular, Angular uses AOT compiling. AOT compiling technique. Earlier, this is also new. This is also from Angular new versions. It is using AOT. So this is also from Angular 9 version onwards. It is using AOT. Differential loading is supported from Angular 8 and higher version. It is supported. Angular 9 introduced this AOT technique, compiling technique. AOT is actually ahead of time. Ahead of time. Ahead of time. I hope you already know JavaScript uses JIT, just in time. JavaScript is a just-in-time compiled programming language. But now Angular is using JavaScript with ahead of time. So AOT is a compiling. AOT is a compiling technique. Actually, this is managed by a compiler called Babel. Babel is the compiler actually. Babel is the compiler. Earlier we don't have this. That is newly added from Angular 9 and higher versions onwards. Angular started using this AOT compiling technique. What is AOT compiling technique is earlier we have JIT, that is called just in time. Just in time. JavaScript is just in time. Now it is AOT, ahead of time. Ahead of time. Ahead of time. I hope you already know what is just in time. Actually, if anybody asked what is JavaScript, definition of JavaScript, general definition of JavaScript, JavaScript is not a client-side script. That's what people wrongly know about JavaScript. So if I ask what is JavaScript, then people say client-side script. That is wrong, because JavaScript is not a client-side script. JavaScript can be used server-side. JavaScript can be used in database. JavaScript can be used in animations also. Don't ever say JavaScript is client-side script. Right? People will know that you don't know JavaScript if you say it is a client-side script. JavaScript is a just-in-time and interpreted compiled programming language. Interpreted and just-in-time compiled programming language. That is JavaScript. It is used server-side, it is used client-side, it is used in database, it is used in even animations. So don't fix JavaScript only for client-side because of your knowledge. You don't have knowledge of JavaScript complete. You think that JavaScript is client-side. That is wrong. You are learning client-side with HTML. That's it. But JavaScript is used server-side. It is used in database also. So JavaScript is a just-in-time interpreted compiled programming language. For example, you see, this is JavaScript MDN. You know who is MDN? Mozilla Developers Network. MDN are the people who built JavaScript. Brendan Eich. Brendan Eich is the person who built JavaScript. We call him father of JavaScript. And MDN is his group. MDN is his community. Mozilla Developers Network. Brendan Eich, the person who developed JavaScript, who invented JavaScript, he have a group called MDN. And those people still support JavaScript. And you see, this is the definition of JavaScript given by the people who built JavaScript. JavaScript is a lightweight, interpreted, just-in-time, compiled programming language. It is lightweight, interpreted, just-in-time compiled programming language. It is not client-side script. Remember, this is the definition not by W3 School's tutorial point. This is the definition from the people who built JavaScript. Right? That means these people know better than anybody else in the world about JavaScript because they built it. Right? So that means, what is the meaning of just in time? What is ahead of time? Actually, just in time is nothing but, suppose we have browser, and this is the browser, and we have application. This is the application. Now we built the application by using JavaScript. Actually, we use TypeScript, which is converted into JavaScript. Now what happens is, just-in-time technique. Just-in-time is nothing but, it will load this JavaScript into browser and it will compile in browser. That means this JavaScript is loaded into browser and it is compiled here. It will load into browser. In browser, it will compile. That is called just-in-time technique. That is just-in-time. Just-in-time means the JavaScript is compiled in the browser. But that is heavy for browser. You are giving more work to browser. Now, to overcome this, now we are using new compiling techniques. Angular is using a new compiler called Babel. What this compiler will do is, it can compile this here in application itself. It can compile in the application itself, and only the output is sent to the browser. That's good. That's faster also. That means it will not compile in browser. Remember, every JavaScript application compiles in browser only. Either it is you are using JavaScript in Java, JavaScript in .NET, JavaScript in PHP, JavaScript individually. You are using JavaScript in React. Now React also supports this ahead of time. That means earlier JavaScript have to compile in browser, but now JavaScript can compile in application. It will compile in application, only the output is sent to the browser. If it is compiling in browser, that is called just in time. If it is compiling in the application, then it is called ahead of time. And Angular also don't have ahead of time earlier. From Angular 9, they successfully implemented it and started using it. So Angular 9 and higher versions onwards, so you don't have just in time technique. You have ahead of time technique. Of course, one of the advantage Angular supports backward compatibility. Backward compatibility means you build an application in higher version, you can make it run on older version also. That is good. Generally, application built in higher version cannot run on older version. Application built in older version can run in higher version by upgrades. By doing some upgrades we can do. But an application built in higher version cannot run in older version. But Angular can do that. Angular can generate the library in such a way that even you built in a higher version, it can run in older. Just we have to make it backward compatible. For that we need some techniques to follow. So that is why it is completely backward compatible, right? So ahead of time, backward compatibility, all these are very important. One more important is Angular uses a view engine. Angular uses view engine, so which is removed from Angular 13 onwards. From Angular 13, you can say, because currently we are in only 13, removed in Angular 13. Actually, Angular uses a view engine which is recently removed. In the latest version, we don't have a view engine. View engine is there in every technology related to web. Every technology related to web requires and uses a view engine. Actually, for example, suppose you are developing an application. Suppose you are using JSP, you are using PHP, you are using ASP.NET, something like this. Now, by using this, you built an user interface, UI. You built an user interface in JSP, PHP, you built an interface. Now, this user interface is not understandable to browser, because that you have designed by using your server-side technologies like Java, .NET, PHP, which is not understandable to browser. Now, whatever the interface you designed, it need to be converted into HTML. Whatever interface you designed, it need to be converted to HTML, because browser can understand HTML. And to translate your server-side interface into browser understandable HTML, we use a view engine. Actually, we use a view engine. Every technology have view engines. Like we have view engine by name Spark. We have view engine by name Razor. We have view engine by name ASPX. That is a view engine. These are all various view engines. Now, actually, Angular were using an view engine called IV. IV is the name of a view engine. So the purpose of this view engine is to convert everything into browser understandable HTML. Now, very recently, this is removed. In Angular 13, there is no more view engine. And this work is managed by Babel. Babel is the compiler which is going to manage all this work. Earlier, we used to have a separate engine, so which is used for converting the server side output into HTML. So, but now we have this view engine removed. There is no more view engine. So if anyone asks what is the new in Angular 13, is Angular 13 is no longer using a view engine. View engines are removed. Some more are there, but you cannot understand until you learn Angular. That's the reason those points I will not explain. Until you learn Angular, those points you cannot understand because they are technically Angular concepts. First you have to learn Angular, then you can understand the differences. But these are very simple to understand. These are all the advantages of key features of Angular. So it's a speed, lightweight nature, run on any browser. That means differential loading, compile before it goes to browser. That is possible with the AOT technique, backward compatibilities to run on older versions. These are all key features. Modular library. These are all the key features of Angular, right? Some important key features of Angular. Now, after understanding this, how do we set up environment for Angular and how do we work? Right? Let's see. So set up environment for Angular. Once we set up environment for Angular, we will understand Angular architecture, how it works and all, right? Set up environment for Angular. To set up environment for Angular, so first step, so you need install, download and install package manager. Already you have no need to do it again. What is the package manager we are using? NPM, Node Package Manager. Already we have it, so no need to explain. And you need to download and install editor. Editor also we have no need to do that. Which editor we are using? Visual Studio Code. So these two already there with us. And TypeScript, download and install TypeScript. Already we done that also. TypeScript also we downloaded and installed. So we have Package Manager, Visual Studio Code, TypeScript. These already there with us. Now extra what you have to do is you have to download and install Angular CLI. Angular CLI on your PC. You have to download and install Angular CLI on your PC. Angular CLI is nothing but Angular CLI. So CLI is a command line tool. Command line tool used to manage Angular projects. That means creating project, adding components into project, updating projects, managing Angular projects is done by a tool. Angular is completely managed by a tool, and that tool is Angular CLI. So you have to install this Angular CLI on your PC. And how to install Angular CLI? You have to just open command prompt, your command prompt, and you have to run npm install -g @angular/CLI. So this is the process of downloading and installing Angular CLI on your PC. So this is an online command, you know already that you need to connect with internet. It will download and install Angular CLI. Angular CLI is a command line tool that is required for managing Angular projects. So you have to download and install this Angular CLI. Okay. Now, once you download and install, it will take some time to download and install all this. Once you download and install, you have to check after it finished installing everything, you have to check version ng-version. It will give you the version of Angular, which Angular version is currently working. Or if anybody says that already I have installed Angular, already you may be working in some company's laptop and all. They say that already I have Angular installed. Then check which version is installed. Because the version older and the new version, so many changes are there. The new version has a lot of changes. So you need to update to the new version to follow our class. You cannot try what we are trying in this class. You cannot try on older versions, right? Lot of changes are done. So once you have to check which version of Angular is there. So ng version. This is the Angular version. It will show you the Angular version, which Angular version you are using. This is Angular CLI, and you can see that is 13.2. So this is 13.2.5. That is the Angular version. Minor releases will be happening. You have to check that. So angular.io, and this is the official website of Angular. In this, actually, you see the references here. You see the stable version little bit changed now. The stable version is Angular 13.3.6. It is very recent. This is very recent version. That means in my machine, I am having 13.2.5 and very recent stable is 13.3.6. You will have problem. Why? Because whenever you run some commands, it says that current version is little bit advanced. You are still using older version. Do you want to continue? You can continue. But some new features which are made stable, they may not be available. So that is the reason we will not take chance. So this happened just only few days back. That means already I have Angular in my machine 13, but just 2-3 days back, they made a stable version one more. By the time you finish Angular project, means by the time you finish Angular, you may get even 15 also. Angular 14, Angular 15 also. Because every few days, so minor changes will be done. New things will be coming. You need to get update. Right? But companies will be using only one stable version. Right? These minor releases not required for company. They just use 13. But minor releases are required for developer to understand what changes they are doing. Because after few days, one stable version comes, in that all these changes will be there. So, as we saw that current version is 13.3.6, but in my computer, I am having 13.2.5. We don't want to compromise. We will install the latest update. Then the question is how to remove the previous version and install the new version. How to remove the old version, because without removing the old version, you cannot add the new version. Some softwares, when you install new version, old version will be overwritten. But it is not like that, because it is backward compatible. Backward compatible means multiple versions of same software it will support. That means Angular 12 will be working, Angular 13 also will be working. We don't want that confusion. So remove the previous version if any version is there. You don't need to do this. If you are newly using Angular, you just run this command. But for the people who already have Angular, so that means if your PC is installed with any older version, then what we have to do is, if your PC is installed with any older version, then update how? First step, you have to run the command npm uninstall globally, -g is globally, @angular/CLI. You have to uninstall the Angular CLI, right? Remember, sometimes what happens is, even the 13.3.6 is stable as per the website, but sometimes they provide the library 13.2 because this is not ready. If it is very recent and it is not ready, they will provide older one only. That means even you install latest, it will get a little older version. But we will not take chance. First we will update, right? So we will uninstall Angular CLI from our PC if it is already installed. So let me do that. npm uninstall globally so Angular/CLI. I am uninstalling Angular CLI on my PC. After uninstalling, so some 188 packages removed, they are removed. Okay. After uninstalling, it's not enough. What you have to use is, so you have to use npm cache verify. We have to use the command cache verify. We have to use the command cache verify. This is very important. So we have to use npm cache verify. We have to run the command cache verify. Cache verify is nothing but any supporting files are still present in the memory, those will be cleaned up. Sometimes those supporting files are not deleted, then you have problem. You cannot install the new version. So all temporary files which are created for that software older version, they must be cleaned from the memory. Then for that we have to use cache verify. This cache verify is to clean up all the older files. Older files means, remember, this you are updating only Angular on your PC, not Angular projects. Not Angular projects. Suppose in your computer already you are having Angular projects created in old version, they will not affect. They will not be removed. You are just removing Angular version and updating the version. But the old version projects will not directly run now. You have to update the old version project into new. That is different. Currently, we are not updating Angular. What we are doing, uninstalling and installing new version. Upgrade, remember, upgrade means from older version to new version. That is only for project, not for software. Understood? Projects are upgraded from old version to new version. This is software. Software means what we have to do, uninstall and install. It is not like updating. Many times people use this wrong word. Sir, how to upgrade from old version to new version? Old version to new version upgrading will happen only for project. Project is upgraded, not your PC software version. PC software version you have to uninstall and install. It is not updating or upgrading. Okay, right. It will take time for verifying the cache. It will take time for verifying the cache and cleaning up all the cache. So once it is cleaned up, all the cache is removed, then we can install Angular CLI newly again, right? Again, to install Angular CLI, you have to use this command, right? Once cache verify, that means cache verify after removing, then what you have to do is now install the latest. Now install the latest version. Now for that you have to use the same command. What is it? npm install -g Angular CLI. You can install the latest version once you clean up that, right? It will take some time because these are huge libraries. So it will take so much time to clean up and provide all that here. Yeah, so it is done. It is finished. It removed all the temporary files, everything cleaned up. Now you see when I run ng version, it says cannot recognize because I deleted Angular. Means completely uninstalled Angular. That means it is successfully uninstalled Angular. Now I have to install npm install @Angular/CLI. Angular CLI. This is to install the latest version of Angular that is available. So we are downloading and installing the latest version of Angular. Without uninstalling, you cannot install the new version. Means without even cache verify, because you will get conflict with the old version without deleting the temporary files. And one more important point, many people ask about various versions. Remember, officially Angular have removed support. That means up to Angular 10, it is no longer in support. Up to Angular 10 gone. Now current long-term support Angular 11 and Angular 12 are in LTS. LTS means long-term support. Right now, latest stable version is Angular 13. Up to Angular 10 versions gone. That means no longer supported by community. That means if you are still using it, you are on your own. No one will provide any help on that, because Angular community will provide support to you if you are using only the versions which are under support. Right? If any technical issues comes, community will support. But if you are using a version which is out of LTS, then no communities will support. Right? So, and companies will not prefer using any version which is not under support until or unless they want to take their own risk. Right? So here it is successfully installed. Let's check this now. ng version. Now ng version, it is 13.3.5. Little bit changed. That is the latest version we have. Otherwise, you will face problem every time, because previously it was 13.2. Right now it is 13.3.5, which is the latest stable version. But in their website, you can see 3.6 is there. Right? That means very recent, yesterday or day before yesterday, they may updated it. But The library is not yet ready. So that is the reason it is not available. So we have just 13.3.5. Whatever latest is provided by them, we will use it. We will use this. Okay, once this is ready, that means you have Angular new version ready. And for that, how do we set up? How do we remove the old version? We have to know. Check the version, same na? I already given ng version. So Angular is ready. It is successfully installed. Now, once Angular is successfully installed, you need to know how to create a project in Angular, how we can configure, define, and work with Angular. So first step, we will see set up Angular workspace. We will see how do we set up Angular workspace. Once you installed Angular successfully, you need to set up Angular workspace. So what is Angular workspace and how do we handle this workspace? Actually, majority of Angular, when people learn Angular, so even when you watch YouTube videos or websites, majority of people will show you how to create an Angular project, how to create an Angular project and how to work with Angular project. But we are going more than that. We are not directly creating an Angular project. We are creating a workspace. Actually, a workspace comprises of multiple projects. Generally, workspace contains shared library. That means a library which is shared to multiple projects. We are working in this workspace. We are going to build this workspace. So generally, when people learn Angular, they will learn how to create a project in Angular, but we are not doing that. So that is the reason the commands that we learn here, the process that we learn here is little different from what you see on YouTube and internet. So don't follow both. Either follow YouTube or follow our class. Don't try to do half this, half that. You will be confused. Because majority, 100 to 100% in every video of Angulars, they will give you the process of creating a project and working on project, which we are not doing. We are doing at a higher level. That means we are creating a workspace. In that workspace, we can maintain multiple projects. In that case, working with the workspace will be different. So different means little bit different in running the commands and executing them, managing them and all. So how to create a workspace? What is workspace? A Angular workspace contains multiple projects. What is advantage of that is you can have a library which can be shared to multiple projects. So we are working in that environment. So how to create workspace? Let's see. To set up Angular workspace, first you choose any location on your PC, C drive, D drive, E drive, where you want to create the workspace. So let's go in D drive. Okay. In D drive here, already I have so many workspaces. Yeah. Okay. In D drive or E drive, somewhere in my location, let me delete this. It will take time. Okay. Let's create a new one. Right. I will go to D drive. Let's open this D drive in command prompt. This is command prompt. Here, open the location in command prompt where you want to maintain Angular workspace. So here I am giving a name. Yeah. Here I am giving, let's see, now I am giving here ng. To create ng is nothing but ng is Angular CLI command. Ng is the short form of Angular. Why this technology is called Angular, I will tell you. For that, you need to know some more technical terms. That means why it is called Angular. What is the reason behind that? Why it is called Angular, right? So what is the meaning of Angular? Generally, in general terms also you can understand. I will show you. For example, let me show you here. I will show a sample project actually. See, suppose if you know JavaScript, jQuery like things, JavaScript and jQuery like, suppose I am giving you library.html. Okay, see here I am writing doc type HTML head title. So this is a jQuery. I will link a jQuery file, script source. In my computer, I have a jQuery /node modules jQuery.js. Here I have a body section. Here we have name. So input type is text. So here we have an ID, username, and we have some paragraph, something. Now, whatever the name entered in text box, it must be displayed in paragraph. That is the general requirement. Now see what I am doing in JavaScript, jQuery, what you have to do, you know. In JavaScript, jQuery, we need lot of DOM manipulation, get element by ID and all this. See, in generally JavaScript and jQuery, we are writing, we need lot of events also. While typing itself, it should verify. While typing itself, it should verify means we have to write username dot key up. Key up means when the key is released, right? For every character, key up is an event. On click, on change, key up is an event. On key up, we are accessing paragraph. In that, we want to display what you want to display. We want to display username dot val. Whatever value is entered in username. You don't need to understand this, right? You don't need to understand, just see the concept, because many people are very much concerned. Sir, I am unable to understand what you are writing, right? You don't need to understand. Just observe the concept, right? So the concept, this is jQuery. In jQuery, JavaScript, generally what we do, we write lot of events. On key up, on change, we will define from where to bring the information, where to display information, right? Now what happens when I run this? You see, when I am typing something here, it will get that and it will display. When I am typing, it will get that and it will display. This is generally what you do in JavaScript and jQuery. But see what Angular can do. So that means here, we are using, actually for that we need to install here Angular, npm install Angular. Okay. So here Angular library I am installing. I am showing you a simple example again. Framework.html. Okay. You see, generally what happens here is HTML head and script. In the script source, we have node modules Angular, Angular.js. I'm using Angular here. In the body section, I'm just using here ng app. And here I have a text box, username, and here we have a text box. Input type is text. And we have a paragraph here. And here I am setting as ng model as username. And here I am defining here as So hello, and whatever the username is there, we are using it. Now here I am not writing any script. I am not writing any event. I am not writing any function, nothing. No event, no function, nothing. And you see here in this, I am typing something and it is working. No events, nothing happening here. No event called key up, no element by ID, no references, nothing. Now see, what is happening here is, in this angular bracket, in this angular bracket, we are using a reference here, ng model. What it is doing is, it is identifying what value typed inside the text box and it is storing in this reference. It is storing in that reference. Then whatever you stored in that reference, it is updated here. That means without writing any external code logic, everything it is managing within the angle brackets, within that angle brackets. That is the reason this technology is named as Angular. Angular. Right? It is named as Angular. Why? Because it can manage everything in this Angular. You don't need to go outside Angular and write much. I'm not saying that you should not write. You will not write. You will write, but not much. Everything is managed in this Angular only. That means everything is configured and managed in the Angular. That's the reason the name of this technology is Angular. Angular, because it manages and extends everything inside the Angular. You don't need to write outside Angular. I haven't written anything outside Angular. Actually, this also no need to write outside Angular. Actually, what I can do is, I can write ng bind. So I can put user name. That means I don't need to write outside Angular. Anything I am typing, it is working inside Angular. Everything is inside Angular. Outside Angular, nothing is written. So that is the reason the name of this technology given as Angular, because it can extend Angular. It can make HTML declarative, right? Now the point is, this is just to make you understand why it is called Angular, right? Why it is called Angular. So the concept here is, what we have to do now, ng is a shortcut for Angular. Angular is shortly referred as Angular. ng new, you have to give workspace name. Suppose I will give as a projects Angular workspace Angular. That is the name I am giving. Workspace Angular. Any name you can give, whatever name you want, you can give. I'm just giving as workspace Angular, right? That is workspace Angular. You can give Angular workspace, you can give your name, anything you can give. So it is creating a new workspace Angular, and I don't want to create a project, only workspace. Then we have to use a command here, create application. Create application is equal to false. Create application is equal to false. And these commands are case sensitive. Capitalization matters. That means you have to correctly maintain the capitalization for the commands that you are typing. And while creating projects, special characters, symbols, spaces in project names, such things are not allowed. If you are trying them, then it will show errors, right, when you are giving. So here I am just giving workspace Angular and create application is equal to false. That means you see, so it is saying no application here, hyphen, right? Create application is equal to false. This is the flag actually. That means it is creating a new workspace and not application. It is creating a workspace, not application. So majority everywhere, wherever you try to see tutorials on Angular, they will teach you first creating a project in Angular. No, we are not using that environment. Our environment is completely different. We are first creating a workspace. In that workspace, we will maintain projects. That is how in real time also happens. Right? In real world scenario, you will not have a project directly. So, but while learning, everybody starts with project. But in real world scenario, you will not have a project directly. You will have a workspace. That means a real world developer should know how to work with workspace environment, not with only project environment, because workspace is at higher level than project, right? A workspace contains collection of several projects. So here we are creating a workspace. To create workspace, you have to run this command. So first point, open any PC location in command prompt. Open any PC location in command prompt and create workspace by using following command. So for example, I chosen my D drive. There I am creating here ng new and here workspace Angular, and in that generate application is equal to false. Create application is equal to false. Create application, you have to set it to false. That's how we need to do. So it is going to create a workspace, and that workspace, remember, if you don't use this command, it will create a project by this name. Even you given workspace as a name, it is not workspace, it is project. You have to use this flag, create application false. Now you see, so automatically the workspace is created successfully. Once the workspace is successfully created, so let's open this workspace and see what it contains. So close this command prompt. Now what you have to do is, after doing this, open workspace folder in your editor. What is your editor? Visual Studio Code. In the Visual Studio Code, you have to open that in the editor. You have to open the editor. Right. What is this ng refers to? Angular. Use basic brain, right? That means if I am writing ng means it is Angular related. Angular related any command is run by using ng. That should not be a question at this level. Some people are asking, what is npm, what is ng? What is npm? npm is node related package manager. ng is Angular related command line tool, right? This is general school people also can understand this, right? npm is related to Node.js. ng is related to Angular. Angular related any command you are executing, you have to use ng. Okay. Right. Now let's open this in Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, now you can see, go to file menu, open folder, and the folder is workspace Angular. That is the folder. And when we open this folder, you can see this is the Angular workspace. This is the Angular workspace. And in Angular workspace already some important folders and files are present. By default, some folders and files are present. What is the purpose of this? So I don't need to explain few of them. Package JSON, already we know. I told you na? In the beginning while creating the project, we already discussed. And already in our TypeScript, we have that. How this package JSON comes? How the package JSON is generated while creating a project? I showed you npm init. We used npm init and we created a package JSON. What package JSON contains? Metadata. That means that is the information about the project, right? So what are the files present in workspace? I will just one overview I will give you. In the workspace, remember this is not Angular project, it is a workspace. In this, we have to create projects. It is just workspace. In this workspace, you see, so important files are there. One is here you can see from the bottom, there is a file tsconfig.json. tsconfig.json is nothing but it is TypeScript configuration file. TypeScript configuration file because actually one of the problem we will face is in a project, so many people are working. A team is present in India, a team is in US, a team is in Germany. So project is only one. People in Germany may not be using Visual Studio Code. You can't force them. They are familiar with some Sublime or they are familiar with WebStorm. They will use that. We can't force anybody. That means project is same, company is same, but some people are using different editors. Some people are using Visual Studio Code. Now the problem is every developer is writing TypeScript and every developer have his own way of writing TypeScript. That leads to lot of code inconsistency. For example, suppose I am writing here I am writing here where some username, it is a string type, and here I am defining single quote John. Another person writes where username is equal to double quote David. Both are valid only. I already told you that type inference is supported in TypeScript. Even you don't define the data type, according to which value you initialize it, data type will be determined. Some developers have an habit of not mentioning data type. Some people will mention the data type. Some people will use single quote. Some people will use double quote. This is nonsense. Lot of code confusion, right? If everybody have his own idea of writing, that is all nonsense in real-time projects. We don't want developers to follow these kind of coding techniques. We want all developers working on a project to follow the same standards. Then the rules for TypeScript are mentioned in this file. The rules for TypeScript are mentioned in this file. That means in this file, we will tell declaration of variable is compulsory or not. If not, then no need of mentioning data types. If yes, then it is compulsory. You have to mention data type. If any developer is using his own shortcut, he is not mentioning, it will show warning. That's good. That means we will not allow developers to use their own techniques. We want all of them to follow same standards. Then somebody writes double quotes. It says that no, use single quote. It shows warnings. So that is good. So we want the developers across the project to work with the same code consistency. That is the reason we need this file. In this file, already some rules are mentioned. You see, already some rules are mentioned in this file. Already some rules are mentioned in this file. That means what are the rules? It is showing TypeScript related some rules, right? Into which JavaScript it is going to convert. Target. TypeScript need to convert into JavaScript. Into which version of JavaScript? It is converting target into ES7. If your company says that no, we will go with ES8, then you have to change it here. You have to change from ES217 to ES218. You have to change. And it is, see, module system. Which module system? 2020. If you want to use a different module system, you have to define it. These all rules are configured. And very important is here, so many other rules will be there. They are not yet mentioned. Once you start creating the project, additional rules will come. That means here only few rules are there. Other rules we have to manually add. That means how should be the declaration of variable? How should be the declaration of string? Single quote or double quote? So do you need a semicolon compulsory at the end of line or not? You can ignore it. Because you know na JavaScript semicolons are optional at the end of the line. But if you want mandatory, then you have to define. So all such options are very important and everything is configured here. Here already it is having only few rules. You can add more rules according to your requirement. Later when you create a project, it will be done. So this is tsconfig file. Tsconfig file contains the TypeScript related configuration. Actually, we can create this file. You remembered last time we created TypeScript project. This is our TypeScript project now. In this TypeScript project, we created library, package, JSON, everything is there. You can see, open the terminal, and here you run the command tsc hyphen init. tsc hyphen init. When I type tsc hyphen init, it will generate the file called, you can see it is generating, and you see I refresh here, it will generate that file called tsconfig. Where is it? In src. You see tsconfig file is generated. We can create that file manually. To create the file manually, we have to use this command tsc init. Then automatically you can see it generates the file. That file contains all the rules. And all rules are currently commented. Only target it is given 216. We can change to 217, 218. That means it is converting. And see, so many rules are there. And so many rules are configured here. And all these rules we can modify according to our requirements. Right? This file is automatically generated when you create an Angular project. Actually, any project which is using TypeScript, it needs a file called tsconfig. Either it is React.js or Angular or Vue.js, anywhere, it requires this file, because we don't want developers to write code with inconsistency. That means everybody his own ideas. We don't want everybody standard. In that case, we need that file. So what are the file system? What is the file system in Workspace? The file system in Workspace contains lot of files. It contains what it is. The first important file is tsconfig.json. That means it defines the configuration. It defines the configuration for TypeScript in project. You can set rules for TypeScript in the project by using this tsconfig. Right? So it defines the configuration for TypeScript in project. That means you can configure TypeScript rules. And these rules need to be followed by developers who are using TypeScript in this workspace. Every workspace can have different rules. That means different project, different rules. One project can have one rule, another project can have another rule. Every project will have a different TS config file, right? And how we generated this file? Manually to generate this file, tsc-init. This is the command actually used to create the file, but we don't need to do that. It's already created, right? If you want to create a TS config file, you have to run this command actually, right? Next, another important file, package.json. So it comprises of metadata. So project metadata. Already what is project metadata we learned. Project name, version, its dependencies or dependencies version, all these details are present in package.json. What libraries it is using, which version library it is using, everything is present inside package.json, right? And some more files are present in that we will see next session, right? So next session we will finish this file system, and next